Hey guys, today I want to talk about how to write a compelling second verse. I had a question in my last video from Rapesh Singh. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. But they said they were having a tough time finishing songs and they usually get to the first verse and chorus and can't really finish it from there. So today I want to give you a few pieces of advice on what you can do in that second verse to keep it interesting and to keep the story going. I also want to look at a few examples. So we're going to look at some top songs from 2020 and break down what they're doing in their second verse. And maybe you guys can pick something up from this video. Hopefully you do. If you guys enjoy, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and let's get right into it. The first thing I would say is figure out what the tense is in your first verse. Is it something that's happening right now? Is it something that's happening in the past or the future? In the second verse, you could change the tense, and this will create a different angle to the story. So if you're talking about something that's happening right now in the first verse, maybe give the background of the story in the second verse. Talk about what led up to it. How did you get here story-wise? That's something the listener might want to know. My second tip would be to use repetition to your advantage. Just because you used a phrase in the first verse doesn't mean you can't use it again in the second verse. A lot of people do this. They start off a line the same way and then they change it just a little bit so it's still fresh, but it's very familiar to the listener. Now, before we get into a few examples, the last thing I would say is you can completely change the cadence of the second verse. Your phrasing doesn't have to be the same as the first verse, and sometimes that can inspire a new thought, so just keep that in mind. The first song I want to look at is Level of Concern by 21 Pilots. Let's look at the first line. Panic on the brain, world has gone insane. Now let's look at the second verse. Panic on the brain, Michael's gone insane. You hear the repetition. Panic on the brain's being repeated. Gone insane is also being repeated. He only changes one word in the first line of the second verse. And if you look at the first verse as a whole, it's really trying to explain the feeling overall that he's trying to convey. And then the second verse gets more to like a personal level. Michael's gone insane. Julie starts to make me nervous. I'm asking you to stay. So look at how he used one phrase, panic on the brain, in two different ways. See if you can do that with one of your songs. So the next song I want to look at is Circles by Post Malone. And what I want you to focus on is his use of changing the cadence in the second verse. So if you look at the first verse, we couldn't turn around till we're upside down. I'll be the bad guy now, but no, I ain't too proud. That's the first verse. Very flowing, very nice. And then the second verse is almost like broken up a little bit more. He changes how he's saying each line. Let go. There's a lot more pause. I got a feeling that it's time to let go. More staccato too. I say so. I know that this was doomed from the get-go. So he didn't keep the first verse and the second verse the same at all. But it's not so different where it feels like a bridge and it's taking such a left turn that it's almost surprising to the listener. It really flows so nicely in the song. So look at your song and see if you can do that on your song. Can you change the cadence in the second verse? Maybe that'll spark something else lyrically. The last song I want to look at is Lover by Taylor Swift. Obviously, Taylor Swift knows what she's doing when it comes to songwriting. So let's look at what she's doing. And she does something that's very interesting. The last line of each verse is where she talks about tense of where the story is. Have I known you 20 seconds or 20 years? This is present tense. She's thinking that right now. The second verse, I've loved you 3 summers now. Honey, I want 'em all. She's almost talking about past tense. It's still kind of present because it's a thought that she's having, but it does involve the past. So I would consider that past tense personally. And so look at that. She figured out a way to share more than one side and one angle to the story. And I think if you use these 3 tips that I showed you and showed you in the songs that we just looked at, maybe that will spark some inspiration for you. I wish you good luck on songwriting, and I hope you finish more songs. Hopefully this helped. Let me know if you guys want to see anything else like this. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next video.